Stops, launches deep. Jalen Guyton, he's got it! Touchdown Chargers! What a throw! 4 seconds left in the game, but this is likely the final play that matters. End zone wide open. What a night for Mike Williams. And the Chargers have their first lead of the night.
All right. Hey, welcome to another edition of ChargersCast. My name's Kirk Brewer. I'm your host. And with 40 plus years of experience as a diehard Chargers fan, we're here to bring you a unique perspective on our Los Angeles Chargers. ChargersCast is a podcast for fans, by fans. So let's get into it. I've got Brennan Isham from Chargers District and Andrew Loya from BoltCasa hanging out with me today. And we are going to talk about the Week 1 victory over the hated Las Vegas Raiders. I always mess that up. Still don't have them in Las Vegas yet, and sometimes I actually mess up our Chargers being not San Diego Chargers, so I'm getting better at that one too. But we're going to look back on that game and look at the pros, look at the cons, look at the good, look at the bad, how we performed in Week 1, and turn around and also look at the Week 2 matchup, which is an away game with the Carolina Panthers. So, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys being here, hanging out, and talking ball. Let's get into Week 1. We beat the Raiders. I think we all thought we were going to win that game, but it's Week 1. We hadn't seen our offense at all in the preseason, so there was a lot of unknowns going into that game. And just to kind of kick it off, as far as observations, high level, 64,000 feet level, for me, it was kind of what I expected. I did not expect our offense was going to be super sharp. I definitely expected the first quarter, first half, we were going to kind of be feeling things out. And I expected our defense to kind of carry us the way they did during the preseason. And I would say they pretty much played like they did in the preseason, kind of bend, don't break, really stout on short yardage, and opportunistic. So that was my high-level observations of the game. And then, we ran the ball and we stuck to the running game, and Justin picked his spots. And guess what? It was a W. It's pretty cool. And it was against the Raiders, which is even better. So your observations, guys, and we can drill down individual players, different sides of the ball, different position groups. But high level, what were you guys' thoughts on the game?
Go ahead, Brennan, take it.
Appreciate you. So I did want to start off and highlight a quick player real quick. Quentin Johnston, he did he did amazing in my opinion. Not amazing, but he did well considering last year. His stats were 3 receptions for 38 yards, and he averaged 12.7 yards each reception he had. During our little bit of the trying to feel it out in the first half, I feel like he was trying to get us going. He had a couple of those big passes, and he was really catching the ball well. So that's what I first kind of noticed in the first half specifically. A good amount of players really putting it together. And, overall, I really liked how it went in the first half. We kind of really got it rolling and at the second half. But like you said, Kirk, Justin picked his targets, and we really relied on that short yardage run game, and I think it went really well. And Jim Harbaugh said what he wanted to do, and he executed it perfectly.
Yeah, I would just add to that 2 things. Number one, we should have scored touchdowns, not field goals, on those short fields. And I guarantee you Harbaugh will have talked about that already because it shouldn't have been 7-6. I think it was going into half, which we were happy to be 7-6, but it should have been more. And you notice they used Q on routes that he is more accustomed to, those in-breaking routes where he can then turn upfield. They did take one shot along the sidelines. He had a shot at it. He went first, he went up with his hands. He just didn't pull it down. So I think he's going to continue to improve as the season goes on.
Yeah, guys, I guess I'm a little more and it kind of matches my personality. I'm a very critical person, so I sat down with my notepad, ready to enjoy the game. And for me, it's like, and everyone had kind of the same statement when I went around watching podcasts. It was like, this is a game of the tale of two halves, and it couldn't be further from the truth. That first half was frustrating for me, and that's just because I'm super critical. But I'm like, okay, this is week one. Try not to get fully invested emotionally on how it kind of played out. But the game ultimately, we got the W, and I was satisfied at the end. I was like, whew, that's how I wanted this to play out. But at first, I was kind of in the dumps. So I've got my whole bads and my goods broken down in this game with some stats and whatnot that I'll run through, and some key points on players. But yeah, overall, the way that it ended and kind of how the fourth quarter came together, I felt a lot better about the game.
I venture a guess to say, Andrew, if it had been 13-7 or 17-7, somewhere along those lines at the half, you would have felt a lot better about that first half. Instead, we relied on Mr. Dicker. Again, the guy's money. You got to love that kid. We just paid him $22 million too, so you got to appreciate the fact we locked him up. But I'm with you, and maybe it's a little bit of age, but I had to take a deep breath. And in Harbaugh, we trust, number one, and it's week one, number two. But there's that part of me as a Chargers fan, as long as I've been a Chargers fan. And chargering is a newer term. It's only come about here in the last few years, the Chargers will charger, right? The whole chargering thing. But there's always that little thing in the back of your head. It's like, man, when we start kicking field goals and not scoring touchdowns and we're kind of fumbling around, but we had 0 turnovers. And I think we were +3 in the turnover battle. So that bodes well as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Let's drill down a little bit. What are you guys feeling? You want to talk a little offense? You want to talk a little defense? There's plenty to talk about on both sides of the ball.
Well, I kind of wanted to highlight a certain position on defense. So the defensive tackles, the interior, they everybody was talking about Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. Yes, they killed it. They're our stars. But the likes of Poona Ford, who had an 89.2 PPF grade, Morgan Fox, Tier Tart, and a couple other guys, Otito, not even going to try to pronounce his last name. They were, so I watched a very, very, I would say very insightful breakdown of them just really collapsing the pocket. And with that reason, one thing that I've always felt that we've been terrible at is the run defense. Week one, we were swallowing them up. Yeah, they had a couple breakouts, but for the most part, Poona Ford, Tier Tart, they were really just crushing it inside. They were not letting any gaps. And I think it looks way better compared to last year, and I'm really excited to see what they're gonna do, especially Poona Ford. I think that was a very, very underrated pickup considering the other guys that people were excited for, and so I wanted to highlight them a little bit because they did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I appreciate you talking about those guys because they did. Are you guys, either of you guys, old enough to remember Jamal Williams?
Oh, I love Jamal Williams, man.
Oh, yeah.
Jamal was a beast, absolute beast. And he was the guy who allowed all of those linebackers that were behind him back in the day, the Stephen Coopers and just you name it, not to mention Sean Merriman's. I think Merriman played with him for a few years. Absolute beast at the nose tackle position. Poona and Tier, in fact, I think Tier Tart only had 4, 5, 6 snaps this game, and I've heard they would plan on getting him more involved in that rotation. And then Morgan, that guy just knows how to get a pass rush from the interior. He just does. He's really, really good, underrated player. And so, yeah, those guys held up their end of the bargain. Obviously, we can sit here and talk about how fun it's going to be to see those 4 defensive ends rotate in and out. And they should have a field day, not to get ahead of myself, for 17 weeks, including this coming week. But yeah, it's really good observation. Our interior line really held up and held their running game in check.
Yeah, that was really cool to see. So I'll start by saying some bad things, and I hope the fans, anyone who's watching this podcast doesn't think that I'm here to just dwell on the bad. I just want to touch on the bad because I think that there are some key things that are important to talk about.
Yeah, areas for improvement, Andrew. Areas for improvement.
Please, room for improvement, guys. And guys, every team in the NFL has bad stuff. Everyone has things to clean up. I mean, if you guys are in fantasy, I'm sure you saw every offense week 1 was crazy weird. It was a weird situation.
It's week 1, right? I mean, week 1 is this absolute crapshoot.
All right, so I want to start by saying 3rd down conversions, and this just bothered me. We went 0 for 7 in the first half. We went punt, field goal, punt in the first half. The competitor in me, that frustrates me because it's like we got Jim Harbaugh. I get it, week 1, but we got to clean that up. Overall, that game we went, and I don't know if this stat was for. No, this is the whole game. We went 4 for 15 on 3rd down conversions. That sucks.
Yep.
So we'd like to fix that, make that a little better. Time of possession. The Raiders edged us out. They had 31 minutes. We had 28 minutes. Not the craziest, not the biggest deal, but I would.
Especially because of those 3 and outs. That could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, and we were both kind of that first half playing the same type of game. Game plan is what we were kind of doing. So, just wanted to get that one. And then you touched on the turnovers earlier. We surrendered 0. They had 3. Heck yeah. Good on us. Kudos. But the glaring issue that I saw with our offense was the Chargers' interior offensive line. I feel like they couldn't pick up the stunts. And then there was some slide protection issues that let some free rushers come in. And that was kind of pretty evident and something that we should definitely try to clean up. And Bradley Bozeman, he's got to get a lot better. That's what was really nice about having Corey Lindsley. He was excellent at picking up, looking at the front, going, okay, here's our pass protection. Here's going to be our slide protection. And then that center tandem is just so important. So would like to see that improve. Zion is kind of the next player I want to talk about. He's still kind of struggling with some of the same issues as last year. He tends to get over his toes, which leads him to be being late on plays. So a lot of defensive tackles kind of get, and he had a heck of Christian Wilkins, a heck of a player, Max Crosby, the stunts, having those guys go from outside to inside, it's tough to deal with. But, he struggled there with some of the same stuff from last year. So we want Zion to improve. And then Trey, he also looked a little slow out of his stance at times. And he still looks like a player still trying to figure out the guard position. Just a note, I understand week 1, new position, not trying to label him as like a bad guard player because he's not a bad guard position player. He's a great player. The tackles were excellent. And then I guess that's kind of like my line opinion. And then as far as like a little bit of receivers go, I just feel like QJ, anything after 10 yards, QJ has a hard time with the contested catch situation. I love seeing QJ, like you guys mentioned earlier, a good drag route, any opportunity that creates yards after catch is great. And I think that this coaching staff understands that, and I think we as fans can all see that that's what we really need to do with QJ. But there's just something about anything after 10 yards, whatever that route concept is. I don't know what it is, if it's physicality, but he tends to lose those contested catch matchups, whatever's going on with that. And then Palmer, he was a little non-existent. He had 4 targets for 2 catches. That was a bummer because, I would have said, and again, this is week 1, so this isn't just like, oh, I'm dying on this hill, but it's like Palmer should be wide receiver 1. If he can stick it out every game, he should have 1,000 yards this season. He's played great when he plays. So that was a little bit of a bummer. The tackles played excellent. And then I found myself listening to some Raider podcasts after the game just because I was curious. And a lot of them were mentioning how great our defense looked, and it really caught them by surprise. That was cool. Ladd was consistent. He had 7 targets, which he had the most. The only, I guess, thing that I noticed with Ladd is he does kind of look a little small out there, but not who cares? He had success. I also want to see like Ladd's deep ball capabilities. Like, we didn't have a lot of juice to the offense, so I would just like to see like if there's a game plan, as we get the run going, if we can get some of those play action bombs going and make that part of the recipe. And I wonder if Ladd's like that guy that can provide that for us.
Well, he's got the speed. DJ Chark being out at least 4 weeks, at least 3 more weeks, right? They put him on IR prior to week 1.
Yeah.
Ladd's got that 4.3 speed. So, in breaking route, out breaking route, in breaking route, play action, double move, and he's got good hands. We've seen him. He's got good hands. So don't be surprised if they've got some plays in the playbook for him to stretch the field. And then, of course, we got Double D, Darius Davis, who they're going to get him in there to stretch the field some too. I am surprised, though, Andrew, of the critical items that you brought up, that you did not bring up those first half penalties. Disley had like 3 right out of the gate, 2 false starts and a freaking hold. Holding penalties are killer. They're drive killers. But Harbaugh is our coach. I'm not worried about it. Not at 1 iota. It was the first half of week 1. It was a lot cleaner second half, if you noticed. But I am surprised that you did not touch on those because those were frustrating the crap out of me.
They were, and I want to add too to that is, that defense is good. Like they're really good. And there were moments in that game where they were jumping the snap count on Justin. That's going to be hard for anybody, especially against that front.
Well, and let's not forget, they were blitzing like every down. Okay, every down. They were blitzing and running stunts. And if you noticed, I think Alt only got 6 snaps one-on-one with Crosby. They had Crosby lining up over against Rashawn next to Wilkes. And they were playing games over on that side of the line. And so I think that's part of what caught our boy Zion a little off as well. Crosby, normally he's lining up over Pipkins because Pipkins is a turnstile. Well, apparently he didn't want to fight Joe Alt all day. And so they had him going over to the other side of the line. I noticed that. I'm like, he's over here going against Rashawn. Does he think Rashawn's the weakest link? What the hell's he thinking? Okay, Rashawn's an all-pro. So, and Rashawn, our tackles play very well. And by the way, it was a great showing for Joe Alt. For his first game against a defense of that caliber, while he wasn't perfect, that kid's going to be really good. He's going to be really dominant. So it was a really good showing. What about you, Brennan? What were some of the big observations you had on this first outing of our boys?
So also I wanted to highlight most rushing yards in Chargers debut, J.K. Dobbins. He had 135 rushing yards, and then he also had that TD. Just 2 of those rushes had already had him almost breaking the record by like only 5 yards because he had a 61-yarder, and then the other one was roughly around 40. So he killed it. Second behind him is arguably the greatest Chargers players of all time, LT. So that's saying something. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself saying he's going to be an LT. It's not what I'm saying at all. However, I do think when he's healthy, people are very doubting his ability because he can make it up the field, man. And that tuck, when he noticed them coming and we only barely had any time left on the clock, he could have easily been a stat like Hogg and got another touchdown. But you can notice he slowed down, tucked that ball in, and we were able to run down a little bit of that clock, which is very smart as a running back. And I would like to see Gus Edwards do a little more. That was a little underwhelming in my opinion. It seemed like he just went straight in the middle and got no more than 2 yards each carry. So I feel like maybe it's because their defense, but I want to see a little bit more of that. And the last thing I kind of wanted to touch up on was Justin Herbert, 17 of 26, 144 yards, 1 TD, and 0 receptions. Hasn't played since November, and coming off of 2 injuries, not just 1, but 2 injuries. So I think that's pretty impressive on the stats he needed to do. Harbaugh's style, he's not going to be what he has been doing, 300-yard games, 4 TDs. It's not going to happen if people want to see that. Maybe on defenses like the Panthers, but personally, I think he's going to be more of a general, more of a leader on the field. You can see it on the Chargers social media. He's getting more open, and I think he's going to be a very good leader on the field. He's going to bring it down the field. He's going to know what to do, and it's not going to only rely on him, meaning I think he's going to perform better with less pressure on his shoulders. So,
yeah, I think that's a good observation, and I think that will bring out the leader in Justin, the vocal leader in Justin. It looks like, number one, the coaches have been, they throw him in a gold jersey, on day one, and he's like, well, can Stick have a gold jersey? And Harbaugh's like, no. You get a gold jersey, okay, and you're the golden boy. And then of course Harbaugh just playing up. You see Justin and right. So I think Harbaugh doesn't do anything by accident, okay. And if anybody thinks he does, and he's just crazy goofy, no. Everything Harbaugh does, like bringing out these like gas station mechanic shirts that are blue collar worker shirts and putting patches on each one of them and giving them out to the players, basically saying, okay, the team we are, you're bringing your freaking lunch pail and your hard hat, and we're going to work for 60 minutes, right? And so, yeah, I think ultimately this will bring out the leader in Justin, that he doesn't have to feel like every single thing. He can be the general, right? Like you said, but he doesn't have to also be, the guy in the trenches, the sniper, artillery guy. He doesn't have to do everything for everybody. And JK looked great. He looked smooth. His cuts were, his vision. I mean, he saw the seams and jump cut it in and just boom. And if you saw the interview after the game with him, I don't think he slowed down, Brennan. I think he ran out of gas. And so he covered up because he's like, I need to get in shape. He's like, the number 39 got him on both of those runs. And he specifically said, that monkey got on my back. That guy should have never caught me. Those should have been touchdowns. He's like, and the reporter's like, well, how are you going to get in even more shape? He's like, after practice, I need to run more gassers. So he's holding himself to a standard that once I break out in the open field, those guys should never catch me. And so you got to love this kid. I think as long as he can stay healthy, he's going to be something special. And Gus will get his. But he showed a lot in this game as far as his vision and he was smooth. He was really smooth. I was really impressed.
Yeah, you got to love that, guys. You got to love that. There's room for improvement. He wants it. And I hope there's some speed to get better at, because that guy's had some injuries, so I hope it's something he can definitely work on. But either way, I was happy with how he played, and just overall with like Justin Herbert. There's a lot of pundits out there who are doing a little bit of crying about you're going to waste his talent. You're not going to win a lot of games with this style of football. But it's like, hey man. I rather, and I think I DM'd jammed you this kind of talking point, but I'd rather have no stats, win football games, than have these crazy stats and lose football games. I'm okay with that type of philosophy going forward, and that's okay with me.
Well, that's been my response to all the fanboys who wanted Malik Neighbors. Is okay. Well, we had Keenan, we had Mike. Okay, we put up stats and we put up L's. Okay, do you want W's or do you want stats? I can promise you right now, Justin will take 148 yards, no touchdowns, no INTs, and W's every day of the week. Period. He did it at Oregon. Okay, they didn't ask him to do everything at Oregon, and he went and won a national title or the Rose Bowl. So I don't think he's got a problem with it. Would he love to throw it all over the field? Sure, he's a quarterback, but I think he'll take the W's all day long. And when he's the field general, he's calling the shots, and he's got the latitude to get in and out of plays. He'll take the W, being the guy that's in charge, versus the guy who slings it all over the field, but he's still watching Patrick Mahomes go get freaking trophies.
Yeah, and he will when he has to, and he will have to. I heard a guy complaining on an episode this morning when I was on the internet, and he was basically saying, like, why have a player like Justin Herbert then? Go find a game manager. And it's like, no way, dude. Like, what are you saying? It's like, that's what makes the situation even better, because you have this star. When you need him to do something, go out there and execute. The fact that he can do it all is just that just makes everything that much better. So I couldn't disagree more with what this guy was saying earlier about, like, you're going to end up trading him. Why run an offense like that? It's like, what kind of football are we exactly talking about here? Like, having a great quarterback and asking little of him is a great thing. Like, because guess what that says? It says your whole team's good. Great. Complementary football. That sounds like a good idea.
Football is a team sport. And if you have a team that relies mostly on one player, whether it's quarterback or some specialty, that is not a long-term winning recipe. Now, you can go back and look at a few teams that had that. I mean, if the Pats didn't have Brady, they probably weren't going to win all those championships. But all you have to do to know what Herbert's capable of is go back to that Raiders game at the end of the season that Staley screwed up and called the stupid timeout, because otherwise we would have tied as a minimum, if not won that game, gone to the playoffs. How many fourth downs did Herbert pull out of his hat? The guy was clutch. And I think that was like a Monday night game or something too. It was like the last game of the season to determine if we were going to get in the playoffs or the Raiders were going to get in the playoffs. The kid was clutch. And so that didn't disappear. He's got that. He's got it. And if he doesn't have to use it all the time, then it's going to be meaningful when he has to. That's my opinion. We'll see how it plans out. But I don't think Harbaugh wants him to have to, win every game and throw the team on his back every game.
Yeah, I think you guys are hitting it like perfectly. It's very rare that you see a team win a Super Bowl with just the quarterback carrying the team. Very, really unlikely. That never happens. You can go down the list of every Super Bowl in the last 10 years, and they have always had something more than just the quarterback. Seahawks, Legion of Boom, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, that's probably one of the only closest ones. However, they had some really good stars pop out they have Travis Kelce. So their defense, Chris Jones, Tyrann Mathieu. So there's always teams. The Super Bowl winning teams don't just have one player to carry him, especially the quarterback. He can't do everything. And that's what Justin Herbert was doing. And that's why we were seeing more L's than W's. So I think this is going to get us way more wins, just like Andrew said. I'd rather have underwhelming stats and W's than all of these stats and losses, because we've been through that and it's never worked out for us. So
it's not a winning recipe, at least not long term. You can win a game here or there, but you're not going to win, have a winning record mostly during the season and get seeded well and then be able to make it through the playoffs. Look back at like the Eli Manning, Giants teams. That guy was gifted with some killer defenses, and then he pulled a couple, unlikely throws out of his hat and won a couple Super Bowls. Just looking over my notes here, see if there's anything we didn't touch on. Ladd looked really good, and I think this is just the beginning for him. Alt, it's just the beginning for that guy. Watch out, that guy's going to be amazing. And JK looks super, super smooth. I think we covered everything. I kind of how I summarized it as we started the pod. I was not surprised by any facet of this game, quite frankly, being a week one, never seeing our offense until the very first snap of this game, not knowing what our offense was going to be because Justin hadn't played any snaps, JK, Goss hadn't played any snaps. So tight ends looked okay. I think that's kind of what we're going to expect from our tight ends. They're going to get their shot here or there. There's a block Hurst would like back on number 39 on one of those long JK runs. He could have pancaked 39, and he didn't. JK would have scored on that one. But other than that, I think it's a pretty good summary. You guys have anything to add as we maybe turn towards week 2?
Quick shout out to the coaches and the players on the second half. Whatever was said at halftime, kudos to the whole group coming out second half and just turning it around, keeping the pressure, finding a way to win, and just like putting a stamp on it. So I really like that. I just feel like the previous Chargers, they didn't really find solutions in the second half. Like it would I feel like we would be a little used to seeing some of the same thing, and then found a way to let that one get away from us. So heck yeah to that group. They came back and they got it done. So I was really happy about that.
Yeah, I've been watching football a long time, and I'm used to teams making halftime adjustments. It almost seemed like the last regime made excuses for why they couldn't make halftime adjustments. Like, halftime's too short. It's really not the time to make an adjustment. BS. It's the perfect time to make an adjustment. And you noticed Harbaugh? Did you guys all notice Harbaugh actually pulled the offense aside near the end of the first half, even before halftime, and he was giving them a talking to. And it wasn't a tongue lashing. It was a strategizing of, okay, here's what I'm seeing, and here's what we need to adjust, even before halftime. I think that's called coaching.
Yeah.
You can call me a fool, but I think it's called coaching. I think he coaches up his guys, which is really refreshing to see.
Heck yeah.
Let's go ahead and turn towards week 2 then. We are going to jump on a plane and fly all the way across the country to go play the Panthers. The Panthers got a shellacking by David Carr and the New Orleans Saints. That game was 47-10, and it was never that close. New Orleans scored on their first possession. A sweet bomb, by the way, from Carr. Hit that guy in stride. Shahib, I think is his name, number 22. And it's like a 56-yard bomb. Scored on their first possession. By the way, Alvin Kamara was having a field day as well. He had a really nice game. And then, what's his name? The quarterback, Bryce Young, his very first pass on the next possession was an INT. And they go down and score again. And then they punt, and they score again. So they're down 17-0 before they even have wiped the sleep out of their eyes to start playing that game. So it didn't go real well for Carolina. But as I was watching that game, I came away thinking there's more talent on that team than that score reflects. It's only week 1. You can never just hang your hat on week 1. It's just such unknown. And so this would be a perfect trap game for the Chargers, even though it's so early in the season. if Harbaugh wasn't our coach. Harbaugh, he doesn't do trap games. Okay, he gets his teams up to play every week a full 60 minutes. But those were my observations, just kind of preliminarily again, is this one could be a trap for us if you just looked at it at a surface level, which of course nobody in our organization is going to do. They're going to drill down and prepare for these guys. But did you guys get a chance to kind of look at that game, see what we're going to be going up against?
Yeah, so I think Bryce Young is in probably the worst situation in the NFL, you know?
Yeah.
I think this again kind of looks like that team who might be taking that last place position again. We'll see what happens. Shout out to the QB School on YouTube. Before I got on, I was looking at his YouTube channel, and he just posted a video on Bryce Young. And what this guy does is he does analysis on quarterback play. And so he broke down a video of Bryce Young and the Saints, and Bryce Young apparently has a lot of bad habits. His mechanics are pretty bad, and he plays with like anticipation, which is me trying to say, like, instead of like, all right, in this play I'm gonna drop back and make my reads, like he's already like anticipating snap, like I'm just gonna go to this spot. So he's got a lot of problems, and this page is not like, it's not like Scrutiny Central. It's this guy's, seems to be really educated about the position, because he's got great videos where he compliments players, and it wasn't a video just to roast Bryce Young, but he has a lot of flaws in his game, like the way he lines his feet up when he throws. He makes a lot of bad moves. So Bryce Young is a struggling player, and that's not going to do them any favors. The Panthers rushed for 58 yards.
Yeah.
Not a great stat line. They had 161 receiving. He was sacked 4 times. We got 4 sacks in our last game. That'd be a good thing to kind of bring back over. And then they gave up 180 yards rushing.
Yes.
So, I think that's something we want to do. So let's see if we can kind of implement that game plan. But this isn't the greatest team. So I think if we show up with our hard hats, make a business trip, take this serious, go get that W, because every game is important this season. Should be a good week for us.
Yeah, I would agree. If on paper you go, boy, this fits the recipe for us. Saints were able to run the ball. There's no reason we shouldn't be able to run the ball, pick our spots to throw it, just like we did in week 1. By the way, do you think Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Bud Dupree, and Thule are going to help Bryce improve his mechanics this week? I don't think so either. If I was him, I would be like, oh boy, okay. Obviously the new head coach over there, Canales, has his work cut out for him, getting his quarterback. The guy's obviously got the talent, but how many first round picks, have we seen wash out over the years for all kinds of reasons that's not talent related? It's the wrong spot, and then they get ruined by being in the wrong situation and thrown into the fire maybe too quickly. But I don't think this is his week to get healthy or get better when you've got Joey and Khalil and Mac and Bud coming after you. It's probably going to be kind of tough on him.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. One thing I want to start off with is what you were saying with the Harbaugh and him not treating it as a trap. I actually saw something him in the press conference, and obviously the Panthers, out of all teams, aren't the best compared to what they were last year and week 1. But Harbaugh continued to say that they were a really, really good team. One of the best teams that he's going to play this year. He was saying like really big things about him. So obviously he's taking this serious regardless if our fans, regardless if the players don't think that. Him being the overall leader of the whole team, being the head coach, I think it's very important that he doesn't think that, because we've had that happen to us a lot. I don't know if you remember, but I think it was back in 2014, 2015. We were the only win on the Browns, and that was because we treated it as a trap. We've done that multiple times. We did that with the Patriots like 3 years ago when they had Cam Newton. They beat us like 40 to like 14, something wild. So him not treating this as a trap and him saying big things about them really shows that he's going to nail down in practice and really make sure that we fix what was negative about last game.
Yeah, and by the way, I'll bring up last season. The Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love looked like mincemeat until they played us. And it was, I think, mid-second quarter or something. All of a sudden, we started charging and all of a sudden made Jordan Love look like an all-pro, and they won that game. And then from there, he had a killer season because we gave him an opportunity to gain confidence. And it's just I'm going to refrain from 4-letter words, but Staley's defense sucked. It was horrible. Harbaugh will not make those same mistakes. That is for sure.
What I did want to highlight too is I got some stats here, and on the other side of the whole trap thing, these stats are kind of go against that and show that we, compared to our performance last week and compared to their performance last week, it should be very good for us considering what I'm about to read. Panthers rush defense allowed 180 yards, as mentioned before, allowed 2 TDs, and allowed almost 5 yards per carry. Their pass defense allowed 3 TDs. Like I said earlier, got Derek Carr to a 142.5 QBR rating. And they only had 1 sack and 1 QB hit. And on the offensive side, Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette, 2 guys that are supposed to be wide receiver 1 and 2, 49 and 35 yards. Deontay Johnson had about 29-something. Miles Sanders only had 22 rushing yards. None of them had touchdowns. Bryce Young went 13 for 30, 161 yards, 2 interceptions, and 0 TDs. I know that's a lot, but with that being said, that is very, very underwhelming numbers, especially with a team where you can see they have some talent and they do have a chance to make some pretty good plays and get some wins that no one expects them to. However, based off these stats, I expect it to be a really good game for us, especially offensively, if they repeat what they did from week 1.
Yeah, it's hard to read into week 1s. I'll be a broken record on that until we get it out of week 2. But it's week 1's just so tough. But a couple things to add to that, Brennan.
Yeah.
They suffered a huge defensive line injury in that game. They're probably their best defensive player, Derek Brown. He's out.
Yeah.
I think he has to have surgery. So that's huge. And they play a 3-4 front. And so he was instrumental in that front. Number 2, the Saints scored literally through the first 3 quarters, like on every possession. Every possession. And it wasn't until the game was completely out of reach in the 4th quarter. And for all I know, because I didn't get that far in when it was out of reach, I kind of stopped. They may have pulled Derek Carr, but Taysom Hill would have killed him too. Taysom Hill was killing him in that game. Yeah, he was playing every position except like offensive center or something, and he was killing him as well. And then a really weird stat that I saw as I was doing some research for this game that I would have never ever thought as a fan long before this expansion franchise came into being, with Dom Capers as the head coach, and what was his name? Carey is their quarterback, their first quarterback. He was a good quarterback, by the way, too. They are 6-1 all time against the Chargers. The only game we ever won was the LaDainian Tomlinson, Marty Schottenheimer era game we had against those guys. So we've got to catch up, and it starts this week. We're 6-1. We're 1-6. They're 6-1 against us. I would have never guessed that in a million years.
No, that's crazy, and that's a pretty interesting stat line. But yeah, hopefully we go there and take care of business. It seemed like everything the Saints did worked. So I hope we show up, kick their butts, and use this as a stepping stone because Harbaugh mentioned he's going to keep the boys there all week. When they go to Carolina, they're going to stay there because we got the Steelers next. Steelers look good, and I like the momentum of the way that this season's going. The schedule is just really playing into our favor. So yeah, we're going to stay there. He even used the words team bonding. So take care of business with Carolina. Then let's go cut this team cut your teeth with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not to jump too far ahead, but I really think that this is like a really cool way for us to get to that first Kansas City game. But I'm not going to try to get too far ahead of myself. But that's kind of the trajectory of like this schedule. So I really hope we go take care of business and play some good football in the next 2 weeks.
Well, I think that our coach will do everything in his power to make sure that that's the plan, that we're focused and we're taking care of business. And I agree. When I was reviewing our schedule, I was like, okay, this is a good schedule for us to grow as a new team under a new coach. And the Raiders were really good week 1 challenge for a lot of reasons, not to mention the rivalry and, last season, December 15th, that whole shellacking we took. And then we get the Panthers, which I think, unless we have a letdown, we should be able to take care of those guys. Doesn't have to be pretty again, like last week, as long as we get the W and there's no reason. I think we match up well is what we've been talking about here. I think our running game is going to match up well. Our passing game is going to match up well. Our defense is going to match up really well against their shortcomings on offense. And then now we get a real week 3. We're kind of starting to come into our own, hopefully, and we're going to get a test in hostile territory against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, they look like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Will Russell Wilson be back? I kind of hope he will, because I think we would probably match up better if it was Russell than Justin Fields. But first things first, obviously we've got to take care of business. Brennan, did you mention you're going to actually be at that game? So you're going to be like our live, reporter in the stands, getting some live footage and stuff?
Yep, yeah. So I will be at the game. I'm going to try to get there a little early too, so hopefully I can get some behind the scene footage and stuff to see some pretty cool things, see who's warming up, see who's not, all that good stuff, and not trying to, put out my page or anything, but I'm Chargers District on Instagram and Twitter, so I'm going to be posting all of that stuff on during the Panthers game, highlights and stuff. And last time I was there, I was able to chat with some of the players, so hopefully I can get there early, chat with some of the players, and get some cool insight from them. And I'm excited to go see them play. So it's been last couple games I've been to was pretty rough, so hopefully this game's pretty entertaining for me this go around.
Nice. Well, can't wait to see you get some good footage.
Of course, yeah.
No, that'll be awesome. Let's see. Like I said, I think the Panthers are susceptible in all phases of the game, including special teams. I was looking at the injury report, and even their punter,
Johnny Hecker.
Yeah, he's a hell of a punter, right? You guys remember him with the Rams. The guy got a big old leg. He did not practice Wednesday. He's got a back injury. I don't know how serious it is, but he didn't practice. Maybe they're just trying to keep him fresh. If you know how to punt, you kind of know how to punt. But I mean, literally, even in special teams, after week 1, they've got some issues there. So, I think on paper it matches up with us really well. And like I said, if Harbaugh wasn't our coach, if we were still under the old regime, I would really feel a little uneasy that we wouldn't travel well to this game. And this would be one of those games where we're all sitting there after the fact going, how did we lose that game? Right. I'm not concerned at all about that. Harbaugh's going to bring them in there with their lunch pails and their hard hats, and they're going to go to work. It may not be pretty. There is talent on this team, but I think we'll outplay them for 60 minutes like we did the Raiders. And our defense is still going to be our defense. I think they can get the turnovers. I think our edge is going to have Bryce Young running for his life the whole game.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add to this, guys. I just hope we go there and take care of business. And I'm just jealous of Brennan. I've never even been to an NFL football game. So
What?
Really?
I know. I got to go. I got to figure it out, guys. So I'm jealous. That's awesome, man. Hope you have a great time.
Thank you. Yeah, same thing with me. I don't really have too much else on this game. Like Kirk said, on paper, looks really, really promising for us. So hopefully we can show what we got and just keep proving. Because personally, I just want to see us doubt everybody. I feel like it is a big thing just to hate on the Chargers, regardless of what it is. So especially having a page and hearing all of it firsthand, seeing all of it firsthand, I just want to see us doubt everybody one game at a time. Panthers are next, so I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. I think the sign of a good coach is you win the games you're supposed to win. Right. I mean, it's the basics. That's the thing I love about football is ultimately it comes down to the basics: blocking, tackling. By the way, the Raiders shouldn't have gotten that stupid touchdown. Dayon went over the top, and I forget who it was who went low, and they basically took each other out, and he got that stupid touchdown. That'll be a learning experience too. I guarantee you that's going to be a coach up by the Chargers. That look, it's probably Dayon, I think, who took the wrong angle on that and let that guy score. But the sign of a good coach is it's the basics. It's the blocking and tackling, and you win the games you're supposed to win. This is one we should win. I think the matchup is beautiful. So I'm going to enjoy watching it. It's an early game for me. 1:00 Eastern time. So this will be, I'll be watching this one over breakfast instead of lunch, and should be a good time.
Yes, sir.
I hope we find some juice in this game. That'll kind of be, the last thing I really want to touch on with this game is I hope there's some part of the game plan where we see some juice on the offense. And we saw that with JK, obviously having the vision and getting the runs. But I guess in the passing concepts, I want to see if we can find it somewhere. Which one of our players is going to kind of, and I think it might, whoever it is, I want to see some juice.
That would be fun, right? I mean, that's the fun part of the game. After the W's, okay? W's come first. But after that, right? I mean, we all, I didn't want to hate on the people who wanted Malik Neighbors and that were bummed that Keenan and Mike were gone, because that's the fun part of the game. But W's are more fun, and then we'll worry about the flash. And I agree. We want to see Herbert. The kid's incredibly talented, and people have been hating on our receiver room. We've got the talent in our receiver room. By the way, Simi, he was active. Brendan Rice was not, but I don't think I saw Semi on the field, or if he was, he definitely didn't get any targets. I could go back and look, but yeah, I would agree. I would love to see us stretch the field a little bit in this one. Maybe we smack them in the mouth for a quarter and a half, get them back on their heels with the run game, because they're susceptible to that, especially with their injury on their D-line. And then when everybody's sucking up tight, Justin can put the game away early or something.
Yeah, I want to see what it looks like, get a little glimpse of, a little bit of the future, and, just kind of what it looks like. Like, oh, that guy can do this. Like, that's awesome. So we'll kill him with this consistency, and then that's, we got that little sneaky move. So I'm excited to see whatever that's going to be and who it's going to be.
Yeah, well, like I was telling you guys heading into week one, right? For me, it felt like Christmas, because you just didn't know what we were going to get. So, it still feels like Christmas because you've only peeled back a little bit. In week 1, we've only peeled back a little bit of the wrapping. So week 2, we get to peel more back and kind of see what this offense is going to be. I think the defense is ahead of the offense, and the defense is only going to get better and more dominant as they come into their own. But, one thing I'll add is on the defense, when I went back and looked at that game, we were solid at all 3 levels. Brennan brought in the interior D-line, but at all 3 levels, we were solid. Junior got some snaps, by the way. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but Junior got in for some snaps. Our DBs looked good. I think we've got a lot to look forward to at this defense, really maybe growing into a very dominant defense that's going to allow our offense to flourish. So we got another week to grow. And as Harbaugh said, week 2, that is the week where you can see the most improvement between weeks 1 and week 2. That's what he espouses. So hopefully we see some really nice incremental improvement, and we just put our cleat on the throat of the Panthers and just snuff them out in the first quarter and move on.
Any game predictions?
Yeah, why don't we just, for the fun of it, I think you got me, Andrew, as far as, the prediction last week in week 1.
That's pretty close.
You were pretty close. I was a little bit more higher scoring. You were 20-13. I was 27-20. So
you just remembered that?
What's that?
That's awesome. You just remembered that? That's great.
Yeah, there's some things I remember.
You're very good.
Yeah. Brennan, since you were unable to join us last week, you get to go first, my man.
All right.
What are you thinking we're looking at here?
Similar to what you said last week, I'm actually gonna say, I'm gonna say 28-14 us. That's being very, personally for me, that's being a little generous on their side of it. But who knows? They may have made some adjustments. We might make stupid play or 2. But I do see us scoring a little more than we did last week, but not by much. I'm also not trying to say huge score, and I'd be totally wrong with that because I do think we're going to score more than 28 points. But to be generous, I'm going to put 28-14.
That's fair. I like it. Andrew?
Yeah, I like it too. I'm going to go with a 9-24 Chargers, obviously. I think we can keep them out of the end zone. I think they'll be lucky to maybe get 3 field goals. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
If our ends do to Bryce Young what they're capable of doing, then they'll be lucky if they get 3 field goals. And definitely not getting into the end zone. But it is the NFL, and it's still only week 2. The old saying, any given Sunday. So kind of like the Price is Right, I think I'll go in between you guys here. And I'm going to say 24. Are they going to get that much against us? Nah, let's go 24-11. An odd score. There's going to be a safety in there, and I'm going with Thule. Thule on this. Nah, Mac. Can't deny Mac.
Get that?
He's a beast, dude. Mac will get the safety.
If that actually happens, we have to do something. That would be the greatest prediction of all time. I will be by the TV screaming because of that.
Well, you're going to be at the stadium, dude.
Yeah, that's actually right. Yeah, I'm going to be at the game being, oh, no way.
Well, by the way, I think we should mention Joey had a hell of a game. He balled out. Supposedly he's on the injury list. I think it was back too. Let me just see here. Where's Joey?
It's Joey. Death, taxes, and Joey's got a little lingering injury. He's going to be all right.
Yeah, it's always something with him, but he always seems to play.
The effort, man. That effort made. I'm so proud of that guy.
On that one tackle.
Yes.
That tackle was huge, getting him by the shoestrings. Yeah.
Yeah, much respect to Bosa. You know, there's a lot of bad talk around Bosa, and you know, a lot of fans maybe giving up on him. But I love the way he showed up in that game. He deserves a lot of respect and a pat on the back.
Yeah. The attitude that he has approached this season, after taking a pay cut, wanting to stay with the Bolts, be part of the Harbaugh organization. You know, supposedly he and Mac have forged a really good friendship. Hats off to the dude. You know, absolute hats off to the dude. And he wants to win. You know, so the effort he put forth in week 1 was incredible. I would hate to end the pod and at least not tip of the cap to Joey. It was a great game. The effort was there, start to finish. It was a great team win, but boy, Joey showed out. And if we can get that, you know, like I've said in previous pods, with this rotation we've got now, if Joey can stay fresh and give that kind of effort every game, and we can get him for all 17, this team's going to be really, really tough. Really, really tough to stop. So, last words before we wrap up.
I want to say something real quick. Sorry.
No, you're okay.
I'm really hoping for this safety that Kirk spoke on, because if this hits, last time Kirk spoke something into existence, Tyler Heineke, that would be pretty cool. So then maybe we'll make this a weekly thing. So my fingers are super crossed now that we get a safety this week. So I'm like, Kirk, you're nailing it.
All right. Well, I'm not premeditating these things. They just literally, you know, come off the top of my head. But I do believe we touched on it during the pod. Bryce has issues, and our four-headed monster on the edge is not going to make his life easy this week. It's going to make it more difficult. In fact, if they play like they're capable of playing, he's going to regress even further. And so a safety is, you know, with J.K. Scott's ability to pin these guys back, turnover at the wrong location or whatever, I could see us having these guys pinned up, you know, up against their end zone. And maybe I'm wrong. You know, maybe Puna gets it. But if I have to pick a guy, I'm going Mac, just because, my God, that guy's an animal. So, gentlemen, thank you again for hanging out and talking ball with me. I appreciate it immensely. This is a weekly deal as we roll through the season. And so we are now heading into week 2. The Chargers are in the new Harbaugh era. We are 1-0. Hopefully next week when we're meeting up, we are 2-0. And we just keep rolling. So thank you guys again. Andrew, BoltCasa, appreciate you, man. Brennan, Chargers District, everybody go out and check these guys out on Instagram. You guys know where to find ChargersCast. We're on Instagram. And our channel where all these get posted is on YouTube. Simple to find, ChargersCast. Do me a favor, go down below, give us a comment, definitely give us a like. Like to know people are actually watching these things and we're not just hanging out, drinking beer, talking football. But we'd still do it even if nobody watched them. You hang out, watch, you know, talk football and drink beer. But give us a like, give us a subscribe. I think when you subscribe, you'll get notifications when new pods post. And yeah, other than that, that's it for this episode of ChargersCast. Enjoy week 2, and we'll be back next week. And we'll let you know our thoughts on week 2 and heading into week 3 against the Steelers. So take care, everybody.
Herbert stops, launches deep. Jalen Guyton, he's got it! Touchdown Chargers! What a throw! 4 seconds left in the game, but this is likely the final play that matters. End zone wide open. What a night for Mike Williams. And the Chargers have their first lead.